The Water for All Partnership is an EU-funded initiative for scientific research and innovation for the water sector. Its goal is to tackle water challenges to face climate change, help to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and boost Europe's competitiveness and growth to achieve a water-smart society. The Pillar D of Water for All, led by Water Europe, intends to demonstrate the efficiency of innovative solutions through the water-oriented living labs. This is a series of interviews to the frontrunners of water-oriented living labs that will join forces and collaborate in the next phases of the program. Enjoy the series.
Good morning. Today we have the pleasure to welcome Claudia Campana from the water-oriented living lab called Canale Reale River Contract. Claudia Campana is managing the organization of this river contract for the Department for Water Resources of the Apulia region in southern Italy. We'd like to begin with a question for Claudia. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready to go.
Okay, so what are the innovative practices, technologies, and methodologies used in the Canale Reale River Contract?
Okay, well, the Canale Reale River Contract aims at identifying innovative instrument that allows to adopt a system of rules in a fluvial territory in which the criteria of public interest, economic performance, social value, and environmental sustainability are equally effective in finding solutions for requalification and conservation of the river basin. The river contract is a perfect example of WAL, since it is developed as by a participatory approach for cross-sectoral planning at river basin scale, in which institutional actors, stakeholders, and scientific communities regularly convene to evaluate, plan, and decide under the WFT paradigm of integrated water resource management. The process of definition of this river contract, the Canale Reale River Contract, started in 2019. Then its implementation, its real implementation, started 2 years after, in 2021, when the contract was finally signed by involved actors. They agree about the strategic and negotiated planning tool with their voluntary adhesion to pursue protection, correct management of water resources, and environmental restoration of the river territory, together with protection from flood risks, thus contributing finally to the local development from a social and economical point of view. The river contract is then contributing to development of new integrated forms of landscape and water planning, and that's why it represents an innovative instrument of territorial governance. The river basin is a good example of environmental complexity with contrasting interests. That's why this kind of tool is very, very useful. The process implementation is undergoing a systematic monitoring and evaluation with the adoption of indicators that are filled by all involved actors. The definition and implementation process has involved several research institutions in the fields of ecology, archaeology, urban planning, and landscape conservation, and also hydrology and water resource governance.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you so much. So can you explain us what are the societal, economic, and environmental impacts and benefits on the local territory and community of this water-oriented living lab?
Okay, let's try to do that. So the Canale Reale River Basin is in the southern part of Apulia region, in the southern Italy. And is characterized by a few ephemeral streams and artificial channels, collecting winter drainage into the Torre Guaceto coastal wetland. Despite the limited extension of its catchment basin, 200 square kilometers, and the river length, which is more or less 50 kilometers. The Canale Reale River represents one of the most significant watercourses in the southern part of Apulia, and with an average annual discharge of 23 million of cubic meters per year. The land reclamation project, which is the reason why we find artificial channels, started in the 50s to contrast water logging and malaria risk, allowing the development of diversified and intensive agricultural production from inland towards toward the coast. At present, the water resources in this river basin are affected by strong agricultural pressures due to high water demanding cultivated crops, causing depletion of local groundwater resources and saline contamination in the carbonate aquifer feeding the wetland. Another environmental concern is due to the treated wastewater collected into the drainage system, so that the Canale Reale River can be effectively considered a wastewater effluent fed stream, especially during summertime. In recent years, the high value of the river ecosystem, its critical behavior during flood events, together with the presence of the before mentioned natural state reserve of Torre Guaceto at the river mouth, belonging to the Ramsar wetlands, stimulated the activation of this river contract. And it was desired by local authorities and local stakeholders. The major aim of the whole approach is to identify and implement a series of policies and integrated action for the restoration of the watercourse and connected wetland system at the mouth of the river, which are recognized as common values of the local identity of this territory in terms of ecosystem services. So this approach complies with the requirement of the WFT, which recognizes the river basin as the main physical and socioeconomic domain for implementing systemic policies for the requalification, restoration, and sustainable management of surface water and groundwater resources by means of these so-called win-win measures.
Thank you. And what lessons have been learned, and what challenges have you faced, and how did you overcome them?
A lot of challenges. So what was clear from the first step is that the role of the river contract is to promote the integration of policies, of different policies concerning these river areas, as well as solve the territorial plans already in force. Water planning and management is at the heart of the river contract, as water issues have been shaping the landscape and determining human activities since the Bronze Age in this area. So this is an important aspect. Institutions, stakeholders, and researchers are actively involved in a series of water-related goals and their effective integration into sectorial policies, and also with the urban and territorial planning, as I said, such as these goals are increased flood protection by guaranteeing the hydrogeomorphological equilibrium of the basin of the territory, and obviously promoting the prevention of extreme events, improve the quantity of water resources and the quality of river ecosystem by improving the control of private wastewater discharge, that are not always well known, and promoting the reuse of treated wastewater for irrigation and for industrial use. Then also reducing the input of polluting loads from agricultural activities by innovating the water cycle in an ecological sense, and promoting multifunctional and sustainable agriculture suited to the climatic and hydrologic characteristics. A key aspect of the adopted approach is the voluntary participation of stakeholders seeking to define and implementing integrated and shared policies local water management actions in this river, in the Canale Reale River Basin. By this point of view, these contractual agreements may help to overcome the traditional conflicts between specific sectors of land, water, and environmental resource management. Given the rural dimension of this area, one of the challenges is the effective involvement of farmers, both in the context analysis and in the co-design of more sustainable strategies. This has been a big problem. We are aware that farmers' community is the key actually to the successful implementation of the river contract, of the wastewater use policies as measure to contrast seawater intrusion in the groundwater and in the so important wetland that we have. Thus, we are trying to overcome these difficulties, particularly the difficult involvement of farmers by planning sensibilization events strictly concerning the themes of their interest.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Lastly, a question about the future. What is the future vision now? Can you provide some tips and tricks for water-oriented living lab that are currently in process of establishment?
I will try. River and wetland restoration and the wastewater reuse are the most relevant policies undertaken by the river community to achieve a multiple series of objectives. These objectives are improve the ecological state of the riverine environment, preserve flood events, getting flood protection, reduce groundwater salinization through the reduction of groundwater pumping for irrigation or industrial use, reduce wastewater discharge and littering into the river and the coastal zone, and consequently restore the wetland environment by reducing waste transport through the river, keeping the water levels more stable and controlling the water salinity during drought periods. So the regular monitoring of program advancement and the open community of actors is making the implementation of these objectives quite flexible and adaptive despite the difficulties and the complexity of interrelated actions. Drawbacks, delays, limits, as well as unforeseen issues coming out along the first action plan, which is the 2021-2024 action plan, are collectively discussed and projected into the future programs that we hope to have as the second action plan 2024-2027, for which funding opportunity, of course, will be explored. From the fruitful interaction between policymakers and stakeholder community, innovative and replicable water management strategies are seen as possible, through the implementation of the so-called win-win measures that are so important for the WFD and also for the flood directive, such as flood protection intervention connected to environmental restoration actions and integration of conventional water resources with reclaimed water resources, aiming all of these actions at local development.
Thank you, Claudia, for providing us such an interesting insight on what's going on in the development of the Canale Reale River contract. Thank you, Claudia, again for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.